There's this enduring idea of the cat as this ultimate symbol of freedom almost. Mark Twain said something like, if you love cats, you're instantly friends.
Right, that instant connection.
But then you try to actually understand them, their behavior, and it's like hitting a wall. Winston Churchill's famous quote about Russia comes to mind.
Ah, the riddle wrapped in a mystery, inside an enigma.
Exactly. You could almost say the same about the cat purring on your lap.
And today, we're actually trying to find the scientific key to unlock some of that enigma. We've taken a deep dive into the source material, and we're really focusing on Chapter 4. Its whole premise is kind of startling. Every cat has to learn to be domestic.
Okay, so that's our mission then, to figure out
Yeah.
this critical, very short time when a kitten goes from being essentially wild to becoming a companion.
That's it. If the idea holds true that they actually have to learn domestication, we need to understand exactly when that happens, how it works, and, well, what happens if they miss that boat.
Because that's a huge implication for anyone living with a cat.
It really is.
Yeah.
And what the research shows right off the bat is that cats are fundamentally different from many other domestic animals in this respect.
How so?
They aren't born just, ready to bond with people and fit into our homes.
Mhm.
They're born ready to learn how to bond. It's a potential, not a given.
Okay, let's dig into that. Because I think most people just assume, maybe, that a kitten kept away from people just ends up shy, a bit skittish.
Yeah, that's the common thought.
But you're saying the science points to something much more fundamental.
Oh, far more. The research suggests the default path for a kitten that doesn't get that human interaction during this key window is, well, it's a swift slide back towards its wild roots. It essentially becomes feral.
Feral. Wow.
It tells us a lot about how recently, in evolutionary terms, cats decided to team up with humans. Evolution only gave them this tiny edge, what the authors call a minute advantage, just a small crack in the window, really, for young wildcats to learn that humans might be trustworthy.
And that minute advantage, that incredibly short learning curve. It's striking when you compare it to humans, right? We spend years teaching our kids how to navigate our world.
Exactly. Human babies need care and social learning for such a long time. Cats, they've got just a handful of weeks to sort out who's friend, who's foe, who's food, before they're kind of expected to be independent.
That really brings us to the core of it, doesn't it? This hard limit, this sensitive period for socialization. And the sources say it's even shorter for cats than for dogs.
That's right. Significantly shorter. For socialization specifically to people to really stick and create a well-adjusted, companionable cat, it needs to kick off within the first 6, maybe 7 weeks.
6 or 7 weeks. That window slams shut really fast.
Faster than most people probably imagine, yeah.
And the results of missing it, or even starting late, are, well, they sound quite severe. The sources mention kittens rescued at just 8 weeks old already being described as difficult to handle.
Doing significant fear, yeah.
But wait, are we really saying, is a 10-week-old kitten found in a shed basically the same as an adult wildcat? That sounds extreme.
Well, perhaps not identical, but the sources describe them as being virtually wild at that point, certainly initially. They're definitely way down that path. Their fear responses seem to solidify incredibly quickly.
So the later you intervene, the harder it is to overcome that ingrained fear, making that deep, relaxed bond much tougher to achieve.
That's the takeaway. It becomes incredibly difficult, sometimes maybe impossible, to get that true, trusting domestic relationship if you start too late.
And speaking of difficulties, what about kittens that lose their mothers early and end up being hand-raised by humans? That seems like it would cause issues too.
Oh, absolutely. The data points to those situations, often resulting in what the researchers term extreme personalities.
Extreme how? What does that look like for an owner?
Well, think about the stress. A kitten losing its mother, that sustained loss. It floods their developing brain with stress hormones like cortisol. And during that critical developmental phase, this chemical overload can effectively rewire their emotional regulation.
Ah, okay. So that explains why you get such different outcomes.
Exactly. It pushes them towards extremes. On one side, you might get cats that are almost pathologically needy.
Yeah.
Super attention-seeking, desperate for contact. They never learn self-soothing from their mom and siblings. Separation anxiety can be a huge problem.
And the other issue.
Pathological aggression, or just profound social ineptitude.
So it's not just about their relationship with humans, it messes up their ability to interact with other cats too.
Totally. They miss out on learning all those crucial feline social cues, learning boundaries during play with their litter mates. So later in life, other cats might actively avoid them. They just don't know how to act right feline-wise. They become social pariahs.
Okay, so human contact is only one piece. This makes it clear that socialization isn't just about getting used to people, it's also about learning how to be a cat. And a lot of that hinges on the mother, right? Her skill is paramount in those early weeks.
Paramount, yes. But what's really interesting is that maternal skill isn't guaranteed. It's not purely automatic instinct. There's this great anecdote in the source material.
The one about Libby.
Yeah, Libby. She was a first-time mom, apparently quite nervous, and she was just bad at it. Handled the kittens really roughly, grabbing them by the head, not the scruff. She'd scatter them, lose track of them, seemed totally uninterested in the actual mechanics of mothering. The owners had to keep finding the kittens and putting them back.
That must have been incredibly stressful for the little ones. How did that get resolved?
Well, luckily, Libby's own mother, the kitten's grandmother, Lucy, was around.
Yeah.
And Lucy just sort of took over. She did the grooming, kept the litter together, provided that essential stability that Libby wasn't. Libby was still the milk source, but Lucy did the actual mothering. It's a fantastic example of that feline social flexibility.
That flexibility seems key. Mother cats are often called indiscriminate feeders or caregivers, right? They'll often accept extra kittens, especially relatives, sometimes even pooling litters together.
Exactly. The rule seems to be, if it's small and in the nest, it's mine. It doesn't matter so much who physically gave birth. And that's precisely the trait rescue groups rely on when they use surrogate mothers for orphan kittens. It's a survival strategy.
So after the mother, it's those rough and tumble sessions with siblings that provide the next layer of education.
Absolutely critical. Those first 4 weeks or so, that's when they learn bite inhibition, claw control, social boundaries, all through play. They even develop specific signals to initiate play without it escalating into real fighting.
Can you give us examples? Because I think people see their cats playing and might recognize this.
Sure. Things like rolling onto their back, the belly up pose, which is a vulnerable, playful signal,
Hmm.
or gently putting their mouth over another kitten's neck, the stand-up move, or rearing up on their hind legs, the vertical stance.
Yeah.
It's all part of the language of play.
And if a kitten misses out on that,
Well, as an adult, they might play way too hard. They never learned to pull their punches, so to speak, because they didn't get that immediate, maybe slightly painful feedback from a sibling yelping or stopping the game.
and that bond they forge with their little mates, it seems like it can be really strong and last quite a while.
Surprisingly long-lasting, yeah. Studies compared littermates adopted together versus unrelated cats put together as adults. The siblings often slept touching, groomed each other, behaviors you rarely see between unrelated adults who often need their own space, separate resources. That early sibling bond provides a real foundation for lifelong companionship, potentially.
Okay, so given how much crucial stuff happens with the mother and the litter, moving to a new home must be a massive deal for a kitten. What's the typical age for that again?
Well, traditionally, for your average non-pedigree cat, it's often around 8 weeks. That usually lines up with when they're fully weaned. But for pedigree cats, it's frequently later, maybe 13 weeks or so, mainly because of vaccination schedules and breeder protocols.
But whether it's 8 weeks or 13, for you bringing that kitten home, you have to realize it's a huge upheaval for them, right? A major stressor. They lose everything familiar all at once.
Everything. The safety of mom, the constant companionship of their littermates, and maybe just as importantly, the smell of their familiar nest or room. That scent is like a security blanket for them. We, well-meaning humans, no matter how gentle, can't instantly replace all of that.
So knowing this, knowing that domestication is kind of fragile and rehoming is stressful, what should you, the listener, do practically to ease that transition?
The key is recreating that sense of security, but on a smaller scale. Start them in a small, confined space, like one room. Ideally, bring something with the scent of their old home, a blanket, maybe. Keep things quiet and consistent. Introduce new people and pets really slowly, because remember, that basic temperament is largely set by 8 weeks. A really stressful move right after that can potentially undo some of the confidence that it just built. Managing that first week or two is crucial.
So let's wrap up the impact of this early learning. We've established this critical period ends roughly around 8 weeks. Does all learning about us and their world just stop then?
No, not entirely. Learning definitely continues. They keep figuring out people, other animals, their environment, really throughout their first year. They refine how they interact, how they bond, but, and this is the crucial bit, the general course of their personality, their core level of confidence or shyness, their basic tendency towards attachment or aggression, this seems pretty much locked in by that 8-week mark. Later learning is more like fine-tuning, not building the foundation from scratch.
Okay, so the big takeaway here from our dive into Chapter 4 seems to be, wow, cat domestication is actually quite delicate. It hinges so much on these very specific, very early experiences. They really do carry that wild legacy just beneath the surface, don't they? And missing that early window means that wildness can easily come back to the forefront.
Absolutely. And the practical point for you, the listener, is that knowing this helps manage expectations. Understanding how vital that early socialization is and how stressful the move to a new home can be allows you to manage things better. It helps you potentially deepen that bond and hopefully avoid some common behavior problems down the line by being more sensitive to their needs during that transition.
Right. Now, we said that once that window closes, say around 10 weeks, that fear response towards unfamiliar things, especially humans, can become almost permanent.
Wow.
But there's a really fascinating exception mentioned, a kind of paradox.
Ah, yes, this is quite something.
If that capacity for bonding essentially shuts down or gets overridden by fear, how do we explain this observation about feral cats?
It's this specific, unusual situation. If a genuinely feral cat, one defined by that deep, ingrained fear of humans, suffers a really severe accident like getting hit by a car,
Okay.
and then it's rescued and slowly nursed back to health over a long period, sometimes something remarkable happens, an unexpected change in personality, as the source puts it.
It overcomes the fear, even though it missed the socialization window.
It seems it can. The cat might bond deeply with its caregiver, almost like a hand-raised kitten would have.
Mm.
It suggests that the underlying biological capacity to form attachments might never fully disappear. But outside that early window, the fear programming is just so strong. It usually takes something incredibly drastic, like the trauma of a near-death experience and the prolonged vulnerability during recovery, to sort of temporarily break through those fear circuits and allow that underlying potential for trust to emerge.
Wow, that's quite a thought to end on. The potential is always there, but fear usually locks it away tight.